Welcome to Heartspeak Podcast, episode 202, Embracing the Human Spirit. Well, hello there, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome, and it's so good to be back with you on this Aquarian full moon, conjunct Saturn. So we're going to be talking about that, and I'm also going to be looking at the upcoming Mars-Pluto trine. That's very significant as well. I hope you enjoyed my journey into the higher mind. And the reason I'm talking about the human spirit is that I heard 3 people talk about it in the last week. And as you know, when I hear something 3 times, I know I've got to look at it. And I have to say, I was a little perplexed. What is the human spirit? What does this mean? Where I had heard it was in 2 cases, it was about breaking someone's spirit, suppressing someone's spirit, suppressing the human spirit, separating or disconnecting someone in a similar way that I talked about the higher mind. And the speakers were talking about how if you create enough fear in someone, the human spirit literally goes off to hide. And then you can, with mind control, enforce your own personalities within that individual so that they will perform in the way that you want them to do. This is very distressing, but it's not very different from what's been happening over these last few years with what they call mass formation psychosis or mass formation. Whereas if you create that fear and anxiety, especially to something that's unseen, like a virus, you can induce in people that sense if they let go of their higher mind or their human spirit, and they'll do whatever it is that you want them to do. So this idea of disconnection has unfortunately taken place very recently. But when I was listening to these wonderful speakers, they kept coming back to, but the human spirit is only hiding in these individuals. It's not gone away. Just as that thread to our higher mind isn't broken, it's just not strong. And so when we evoke that human spirit, we evoke that connection to our higher mind through the pineal gland, through the crown chakra, it's all waiting for us. And I think that's what's happening now. That's what's so exciting at this time. That more and more individuals are not just awakening, although that's the truth. We're actually expanding ourselves. We're saying, I need to connect back to that part. This part of me is so important that I cannot allow it not to exist within me. And when we bring back that human spirit, we realize that this is all that matters. So what is that human spirit? And I've heard that phrase that many of you may have heard. We're a spiritual being having a human experience. And everybody feels kind of content on that. Wow, that makes sense. But I often hear that as if like having a human experience is a punishment almost. Well, poor you, you're having a human experience. So I kind of turned it around and said, well, what if I'm a human being having a spiritual experience? And that allows me to say, yes, being a human is not a victim. It's not something that I need to be afraid of or ashamed of. Being human is actually something that I should be proud of. Because within that human, I have this spirit. And when I looked at the different dictionaries to define it, of course, there was this concept of the human spirit being a divine force within me, which I'm very happy to go along with. So when I'm in touch with my human spirit, I'm in touch with that divine force that lives within me. And when I felt into that, it created this unified field. Yes, when I'm in touch with the human spirit, there is a unification. And with that unification comes compassion. comes a determination not to be disconnected from that anymore. And I just love that energy. And so when I was listening to these speakers who talked about how there were those who tried to suppress or literally define the human spirit as something that could be trodden on, broken, they also spoke about compassion and oneness. Not oneness as in a term of someone else leading us into that oneness, but that oneness existing in me that you cannot empower me to be because it already exists. Make sense? And so when I was looking at the human spirit, I talked and felt and wrote about in my own diaries about what does that mean to me? What does compassion mean to me? And compassion is for me a different word than love. Love is the energy, the glue that attracts me to those things that will create my wholeness. And where is that wholeness? That's within my soul. So let me just define the soul as my unique flower. But my spirit is where my flower no longer has to exist in an individual or separate form. It's as if there is only one flower or one garden where all the flowers exist. They're all accepted, but the spirit that moves through each flower, the life force that moves through each flower, exists for us all. You could align that to the sun. The sun shines on us all, sometimes too strongly for some of us, but it shines on us all. But it doesn't define how each flower in my garden is going to take that spirit and start to bloom. So the blooms in my garden, which are very unique, are the soul, the spirit, the sun, is feeding them all and unifying them all. We call that the life force. And that spirit taps in through that higher mind that I was talking about last time, through the crown chakra, through the pineal gland. That inspiration, do you remember I was talking about that word inspiration? In spirit. So when we're inspired, we're receiving that life force, that sun energy that feeds my soul. And what I have seen is some of the different vaccines and drugs that we've been taking recently have dampened that pineal gland, have dampened that silver cord that connects us between the crown and that stargate I talked about last time. But we can open that up. We can bring life back to that pineal gland and that crown chakra and that ladder that is the human spirit through the very things that we know connect us: joy, laughter, humor, nature, whatever it is, creativity, spontaneity, compassion. All of those aspects of what I would call the qualities of the human spirit are the same forces that say, you can't disconnect me from this. This is my birthright. This is what makes me who I am. And now I'm embracing that human spirit. And I was very aware that we are moving at such a fast rate now, a rate that those who have been trying to keep us enslaved or in a very small state cannot control anymore. And part of the reason of that, as I have explained before, is we're in this amazing photon belt of light that's coming in from the galaxy, that's coming through our solar energy. And then because we have such a magnetic field that is weak at the moment around the Earth, we are all experiencing not just as I've described, the sun's rays reaching us, but the galactic rays, and through the galactic center, the universal rays. So these rays of energy, of information, of consciousness are shining on us at such a pulsing energy, such a magnificent energy, that more and more people are saying, you know, I may have the anxieties, I may have the fears, but actually I'm waking up to something that exists in my spirit beyond that. And the vision I got this morning was of these waves of energy coming in, but waves as in water, let's put it this way. And that we at the moment are surfing the tops of those waves. We are reaching out to that brilliant light that exists on top of the waves. And if you've ever been in a magical place when there are waves and there is sun, and I think of Hawaii, this is fire on water, one of the most powerful forces that exists within alchemy. When fire and water come together, there is no stopping us. It's literally transcendence. And what I saw is us all on the top of those waves. So water, but we were receiving the fire. And in that, we were feeling our human spirit awakening in ways that can't be stopped. And that was the true meaning of compassion, that oneness coming together. Compassion is with passion. So it's not just oh, it's nice to lie on the top of these waves. I'm seeing us awakening in a passionate way. That fire, that spirit within our humanness is awakening. And at the same time, I saw in my dream that those who live, as I call them, the bottom dwellers, the ocean bottom dwellers, those who live on the bottom of the ocean, who have fed off the darker energies, the energies of despair, the energies of shame, the energies of fear, are trying to reach up and grasp those who are surfing the tops of the waves, trying to pull them down into the darkness again. But it can't happen. It's not to say that those energies are good or bad, because once you're in that level of transcendence, you don't care. It's not about a judgment. If you wish to live on the bottom of the ocean in that dense energy with little light, have a good time. But I'm not coming down there anymore. And I'm listening and feeling in myself that many of us who would in the past have dived down to pick up those who are on the bottom of the ocean and bring them to the light are saying, hey, I have so much compassion for you that I'm not going to do that. I can't save you. You have to learn to swim to the top. You have to choose to do that. But I'm not going to let you pull me down to those depths again. Because this is where I'm alive. This is where my spirit wants to be. And I sense that this energy, fire and water, are going to enhance. And this is why I saw the Mars, which is the Mars in Taurus and the Pluto in Capricorn coming together next week, very much firing us up, passion, Mars. And then the Pluto, the Capricorn, which we've talked about, both of them earth signs, but it's almost as if there's the earth that we're talking about is not just a physical earth, it's about creating a new reality, a new earth. It felt with Mars and Pluto coming together, there's a new earth that we're now creating, a new reality, stepping beyond perhaps the matrix, as many of us know about, but we're creating a new hologram. We never escape the matrix because our whole consciousness is just about creating new holographic consciousness. But what we're doing is creating a new earth, a new way of being. One where these human spirit energies exist. compassion, humor, joy, integrity, all the qualities that go along with Pluto being in Capricorn, that has been there since 2008 and will actually leave in March 2023. And I feel excited because as a planet goes towards the end degrees of the sign it's in, it actually enhances whatever qualities that planet brings. So the Pluto is about transformation. It went in 2008. We all know what happened there, where the financial markets crashed. But it was the beginning of the transformation of many of the institutions. And what we know, that those banking and financial institutions that should have collapsed and been transformed didn't get transformed. And so now that Pluto's coming towards the end of Capricorn, it's becoming stronger and stronger. And it's saying, any institution that does not transform, I will transform for you. And I don't think any of us could have believed that in the last 2 years, our respect for so many authoritarian institutions has collapsed. And even if we try still to say, oh, maybe our leaders know, no, they don't. And I think it's across the board. There are very few institutions, if you think about them, that have stood the test of time. And that's right, because they need to change. And this brings us to the Saturn and the full moon in Aquarius. And what we're seeing is, yes, Saturn is about limitation and restrictions. And we've seen this in Aquarius for a long time. But I think it's also about the foundation. Saturn is about foundations, blueprint. We are making a new blueprint for communities, a new blueprint based on higher awareness. Aquarius, higher awareness, a synthesis of ideas. We're now being wise, not just jumping into a new way of being. We're not just saying, oh, we'll go along with this. We're saying, no, if this community is not based on respect for everybody, self-responsibility, where everybody benefits, then it's not a community. It's not the sort of community we want to build. And the interesting part of what's going on at the moment is that those bottom feeders at the bottom of the ocean have fed on the idea of polarization. Defend or be attacked. That's all they're interested in. What's actually interesting is that the third option is becoming stronger. You're hearing more and more people saying, I'm not for or against something in terms of you can't make me go into one or other camp. I'm for the middle way. And the middle way not being a passive way, but actually a very active way. I'm for the human spirit. I'm for non-judgment in terms of either or. I'm for everybody stepping up. And that's the true meaning of compassion. I'm watching more and more people saying, I'm not going to take sides. I'm going to be an independent, or I'm going to be someone who fights for this. But it's not against something. It's for something. And that to me is what we're seeing with this full moon. And that's to me what we're seeing with this Mars and Pluto trine. And that's to me what we're going to be moving into next year. March is a huge time. Jupiter and Chiron coming, the healing of our wounds of war, a healing of where we would see separation. Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's massive. Moving into Aquarius is saying, I will bring about this transformation. I have great faith in this. Pluto being about energy. Pluto is about the dark energy, but also the deep energy within our soul, the human spirit. And he's saying, I will deliver this energy for everyone. The free energy, the energy to be free, the energy to harness all that creativity. Not something that's on the surface. It is our gems, our gifts. That's what Pluto is giving to us. And we no longer need to beg for something from someone else. It's there for us. Nobody can have authority over whether we have enough food, finance, fuel. This is not in someone else's hands. The human spirit will make sure that doesn't happen. And so I leave you with those thoughts. Everything is speeding up. What I hear is the fact that we were meant to have first contact with ETs in 2025, 26. Bishan, who is a channeler now, says, actually, it's coming in 2023. Everything is speeding up at such a rate. And that contact is not about ETs and UFOs coming. We all know they're there. And here, this is about us recognizing our own extraterrestrial, our own uniqueness. None of us came from this planet. We've all existed in other universes, dimensions, galaxies. It's time we woke up. And that's why the human is becoming spiritualized through our own inner determination, compassion, and just pure joy of being free. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the HeartSpeak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Please check out all HeartSpeak episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. HeartSpeak is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and now playing on Amazon Music and iHeart Radio. You can also watch the archive podcast on Christine's channel, on YouTube, and now on Rumble. Connect with Christine on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, including her newest Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling. Do share with family, friends, colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of HeartSpeak.